Now I'd like to welcome you to Pearl Island Arabians here in Herefordshire, where you'll see similar horses to the ones you have in Bahrain, because here in Hereford is the one and only place where I'm honoured to have both mares and stallions from the Royal Stud.
قام صاحب الجلالة الملك المفدى بإهداء الملكة إليزابيث الثانية مجموعة من الخيل البحرينية الأصيلة، منها ملولشان وطويسان، واللذان يعدان من السلالات العربية الأصيلة النقية التي لم يختلط نسلها بدماء الخيل الأخرى، من أصايل البحرين، وتمتد جذورها إلى ما يزيد على 200 عام. قدم لها الرعاية والاهتمام حكام البحرين، وعلى رأسهم سيدي جلالة الملك المفدى حمد بن عيسى آل خليفة، حتى غدت محط أنظار العالم كله لنقاوة دمائها. وتأتي هذه الهدية المميزة من صاحب الجلالة الملك المفدى إلى صاحبة الجلالة الملكة إليزابيث الثانية استمرارية لسلسلة من الإهداءات التي تميز بها آباؤه وأجداده للأسرة المالكة في بريطانيا، والتي تمتلك حاليا مجموعة كبيرة من سلالات الخيل البحرينية العريقة، إسهاما في دعم جهود هذا البلد في الحفاظ على سلالة الخيل العربية الأصيلة واستمرار نقائها في أوروبا عبر تاريخها العريق.
Next, two beautiful purebred stallions, Tuaisan and Loshan, given to the Queen as a gift in 2013 from His Majesty the King of Bahrain.
The first one I'm going to introduce you to is Tuaisan, and Tuaisan lives here with us at Pearl Island Arabians. The stud was named because we have so many Bahrainis here, and of course Bahrain is the island of pearls, and also the horses are considered pearls. They're jewels, they're priceless, really are priceless. Tuaisan belongs to Her Majesty the Queen, gifted by His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa to our Queen here in England, and he's just back today from a presentation for the Queen's 90th birthday. So he was paraded for her in front of both their Majesties. Tuaisan is from one of the very, very nice families preserved within the Royal Stud. And there's a lovely story that goes with this particular family, which is a visit, well, probably about 60 or 70 years ago now, by another ruler to Bahrain. And he saw a very beautiful colt playing in the courtyard. He admired it, and he was given the colt, as the culture and the tradition is the way, of it. And when he was given the colt, he asked if he could see the mother, because this colt was so beautiful. And the emir had the mother brought forward, and she was very plain. He expected a really beautiful mare to be the mother of this very beautiful colt, but she was quite plain. But the emir said straight away, don't forget the oyster, because the outside of the oyster, when you look at it, you wouldn't think anything so beautiful would come from inside, but this colt is the pearl from this oyster. And that's the Tuaisan, and this is from the Tuaisan family. And he has children here at the farm, but he's desert bred. He was bred in the Royal Stud. I'd like to introduce you to another stallion. This is Marshawn Mahrus. He also belongs to Her Majesty the Queen, presented to her by His Majesty King Hamad of Bahrain. and he came along with the Toisan stallion to live with us about 3 years ago. Now, he's also just back from Windsor because he took part in the Queen's birthday display as well. The Marshawn has been in Bahrain since the Al Khalifas took the island in 1783, or arrived at the island in 1783. So this is a line that's very well known, that's always been on Bahrain. And quite recently, His Majesty used to ride a Marshawn stallion. It was a great favourite of his, a speckled stallion. And one of the old famous speckled stallions that we've had, that's the spotty like you saw with Toisan, called Marshawn Mahrus. He was a great stud stallion. Now, Bahrain has always had Marshawn. I'd say they came with the family, and now he's here in England and we're using him at stud, so we're very lucky because he produces some lovely progeny.
وننتقل خلال زيارتنا التي ناهزت 20 يوما في ربوع بريطانيا بزيارة اسطبلات دانات البحرين المعروفة، والتي تمتلكه السيدة جين لي، هذه الإنسانة الشغوفة والمحبة لسلالات الخيل البحرينية، ودفع هذا الحب إلى القيام بدور كبير في بريطانيا من أجل تربية والمحافظة على السلالات البحرينية من الخيل، كما أنها بذلت جهداً جباراً في إبراز سلالات الخيل البحرينية، والتي نادراً ما تتواجد خارج المملكة، ورعايتها بما يتناسب مع أصالتها ونقاء دمائها كثروة قومية يعتز بها البلدان ويتباهى بامتلاكها أصحاب الإسطبلات.
Within the stud, within Pearl Island, we have horses coming in that are pure Bahraini Al Khalifa horses, but from two different studs in Bahrain. Originally, I mean, they're all the same family horses, but we have horses here from the stud of Sheikh Mohammed bin Salman and also from the royal stud. And the royal stud, which is based at Al Rauda and is under the care of His Majesty the King and his grandson, Sheikh Isa bin Salman, they have pure Bahraini horses and they breed, you know, in the way they've been bred for centuries. But also you have Sheikh Mohammed bin Salman's stud. The nucleus of the horses are the same and they're also continue to be bred. And these days there's a lot of interaction between those two studs, which is great because it means that the gene pool can be extended and, you know, the future of the Bahraini horse is secure. Amongst the successes we've had with the Bahraini horses here in the UK is in endurance. We've produced horses that have gone up to 120k, you know, that's like 120 kilometers in one day. We also produce very good race horses by allowing people to use our stallions, and also I breed the stallions out. So we have some very, very good race horses. One of our best is pure Bahraini, a Shwayman, and unusually he was one of twins. He's the larger of the twins. So he's racing this season in the UK and he has won races. We also have a retired racehorse who we bred, he's 22 now, and he won 13 races in his day and he was always placed. And after he finished his racing career, he went on to do endurance and became a top flight endurance horse. So the stamina and the soundness and the versatility of the Al Khalifa horses is absolute. I mean, if you want a good endurance horse in this day and age, a lot of people will come to Pearl Island to get this Bahraini blood, because not only is it strong and it's fast, but also the main thing with endurance horses is the pulse rates. And because the temperament of these horses is so good, they're so relaxed that what happens is when you take them to a ride and they have to have a pulse check taken before they can start, we're always in the 30s, we're always in the low 30s. So that's always a big benefit. So that word is spreading. So the Bahraini horse now Bahraini stallions here in particular, are being used quite a lot to sire endurance horses. When His Majesty presented Her Majesty the Queen with two very beautiful Bahraini stallions, which I showed you earlier, the Marshawn and the Toisan, it enabled me here to cross the horses of Sheikh Mohammed bin Salman with those of His Majesty the King, because Her Majesty the Queen keeps the horses here, or allows us to have them here. We're allowed to use them, so we have used horses from the Royal Studs breeding program together with mares from Sheikh Mohammed bin Salman's breeding program, and these foals have arrived this year, this spring, and we can show you those foals, that combination. It's a very good combination.
اسطبلات دانات البحرين لها شهرتها الواسعة في هذا البلد الكبير الذي يوجد للخيل فيه مكانة رفيعة واهتمام خاص من جميع فئات المجتمع، وخاصة سلالات الخيل البحرينية التي لها مكانة مميزة وتقدير كبير عندهم، ولهذا السبب أصبحت تحظى بشهرة عالمية وليس محلية فقط.
So the Arabian Racing Organisation is responsible for organising all purebred Arabian racing in the United Kingdom, and we take registrations of all the horses, all the owners, and we organise all the races. We write the race plan and we arrange for sponsorship as well for all the Arabian races. And we have approximately 100 to 200 horses registered in the UK each year, and we try to write a race plan that organises races for the higher rated horses and for the slightly the lower rated horses, and for including British bred and purebred Bahraini horses, and as well as the French bred horses as well. We have a few Bahraini bloodlines running in the UK. I'm always very particularly impressed with these horses. They show a good deal of strong bone. They look very strong, impressive types, especially the Hamdani lines. We have a horse today called Shuwayman Al-Kabir running, a very, very good looking horse running in a handicap later today for the trainer Jenny Lees. It's a very smart horse that I certainly think will be winning races at this level very soon. The Bahraini horses are always very, very strong types. They show great muscular development. They look very classically Arabian. They're always incredibly good-looking animals, very competitive in the racing. I think they show a great deal of versatility over the distances, being able to run endurance racing as well as showing great skill on the race course as well. I'm particularly looking forward to seeing Shuwayman Al-Kabir running today. My grandfather's name was George William Reginald Smith, and he worked for His Highness Sheikh Isa bin Salman Al Khalifa. Father spent a lot of his summers in Bahrain and speaks very, very fondly of the country, and I hope to visit myself one day and see where my grandfather worked for so many years for His Highness Sheikh Isa. Well, I'm not entirely sure, but he was there for most of the 1960s, and I believe in 1964, when His Highness Sheikh Isa came to the United Kingdom on an official visit, my grandfather was with him for that time when they met the British royal family and the Prime Minister on that day as well. No, I'm afraid I don't know. I know that the house, my father said the house they had was on the coast at the time, but now with so much development and work, there's now quite a lot of land has been reclaimed. But no, I'm afraid I'm not quite sure. It's a customs house, I believe.
final furlong. Callie May and LB Farah, this pair doing best as they come inside the distance. Callie May on the far side, LB Farah on the near side. 3 lengths back to the other. It's Callie May not doing a lot in front, just in front from LB Farah, who's battling back on the near side. Callie May all out from LB Farah. Callie May just from LB Farah, close for third between Viewing and Shuaib and Al Kabir, and then Tamarind Day.
We were first introduced to the Bahrainian breeding within Arabs about 10 years ago when we met Jenny Lees of Pearl Island Arabians down in Hereford. We visited Jenny because we'd heard lots about her Bahrainian Arabs and we wanted to see what the breeding of Bahrainian Arabs looked like. We were used to having Arabian horses, but we used to do a lot of showing with Arabian horses. So we had Spanish and Egyptian bloodlines and were very unfamiliar with the Bahrainian breeding. When we first saw Jenny's horses of the Bahrainian breeding, we were a little taken aback because they were very different in physique to the other Arabian horses that we were used to. Very much a straighter profile, but much physically stronger. We've also got a pure Bahrainian Arab out of Crayon. He's wandering around there, very laid back in temperament. We find the Bahrainian breeding particularly lends themselves to endurance. They're a particularly strong breed of horse, physically very strong. All our horses compete with no shoes, completely barefoot, and have never been shod. And the horses are very inquisitive, want to spend a lot of time with human contact. And I think, again, with having a number of different bred Arabian horses, that's one of the big characteristics of the Bahrainian breeding, is that they're very much a people horse, but again, very much lend themselves to top level competition. Would you agree, Terry?
Yes, Amanda's right in everything she says, and one thing about them, because I do the endurance, you get such a bond with the horse, and the stallion is so well behaved that shows and at rides, it's phenomenal, because temperament is absolutely fantastic. And the full Bahrainian one, Nasser, who Joshi rides, he is absolutely brilliant. He did his first 80k race a few weeks ago and came fourth, and his heart rate was tremendous. As Amanda has pointed out, the heart rates of these Bahrainians are really, really good, and they are really an exceptional horse for endurance riding, because I have ridden other horses in endurance and got them to the top, and they had a lot of Egyptian in them and Polish and other bits of Arabian horses. So I really think the Bahrainians are really, really fantastic for the endurance.
Bahrainian breeding, they are very, what's the right word? They're very people horses. They're very, very, very affectionate, especially when you have a close bond with them. Terry mostly competes obviously he competes all of them, but Bonanza, when we compete together on the stallion and the
Nasser,
purebred Bahraini Nasser, they have very close relationships with you from competing, and it's a very, very special bond that I don't think you get with all other breeds of horses, because they are so bred to be people horses.
I'm Leslie Dunn, and this is Warren's Hill Arabians, my Arab stud in the Wye Valley near Monmouthshire in Wales. And I have been involved with Arabian horses since 1975 when my neighbour Margarita Kokin brought some Bahraini horses into the country and took me to see Jenny Lees with her lovely stallion Segwari in mid-Wales. And I've been a friend of Jenny's ever since and have got to know her and her wonderful stallions that have arrived in this country, and I have been fortunate enough to use the stallions on many occasions to outcross with my own Arab mares, which are of more Polish and Russian bloodlines, with some fantastic results. I've always admired the lovely size and scope of the Bahraini Arabian horses and how sensible and sound they are. I've ridden them and they seem to just go for miles, and they make lovely outcrosses with my Russian Polish bloodlines, adding size and scope to some of my slightly smaller, finer mares. And I've bred some really outstanding endurance horses using the outcross of the Bahraini blood. I have also been very honoured to be offered the invitation to use Tuesan, Her Majesty the Queen's beautiful grey stallion, when he first arrived in this country. I sent to him one of Chatan's, my premium stallion sisters, and they have produced a lovely grey colt who is now gelded and hopefully will be going to an endurance home in the near future. This little chap is called Shakir, and he is the first offspring of Tuesan that was born in this country, and he is just about 2 years old, and I'm very, very pleased with him.
My opinion about the Bahraini horses at the moment is that they are not like other Arab horses. They are, that there's a quality about them, not only physically, because they look different. They are more solid looking than other horses. But also the key, in my view, is that their temperament. They are much steadier than the other horses that I've had, the other particularly Arab horses that I've ridden. They learn to trust you, you become a team, and they are just, as far as the temperament is concerned, much more stable. So because of that, you can trust them to do more than perhaps with other horses, because you know that they will look after you because you are their family. It's almost like they're your family.
رحلتي كانت موفقة، وأتمنى أن أكون قدمت للمشاهد كل ما يتعلق بأصايل البحرين وتاريخها في المملكة المتحدة، والمكانة المرموقة للخيل البحرينية وشهرتها التي جاءت بفضل الاهتمام اللامحدود من جانب سيدي صاحب الجلالة الملك المفدى بالخيل والحفاظ عليها وعلى إرث الآباء والأجداد من حكام البحرين الكرام الذين أولوا الخيل كل الاهتمام والرعاية منذ ما يزيد على قرنين من الزمان.